there's no risk. Where you fail to do that, you'll be held accountable just like everybody else. Any other questions?
What were your observations of yesterday's voting lines, primaries, and does your office have a role in ensuring voters' rights are protected?
The answer to the first question, my initial observation was, I'm glad I'm on the permanent early voter list and that I dropped my ballot off. Secondly, we do work with the recorder's office in providing legal advice. So to the extent that there are questions about policies or procedures and how they comport with Arizona and federal law, we do work with the office. I haven't seen anything to suggest at this point that there are actually going to be lawsuits filed or allegations made. If that were to happen, we would work with our client in trying to address any concerns that they might have about being able to carry out their duties.
Would a miscalculation be a justification for violating voters' rights, or would it have to be more intent? A lot of people out in the community today are talking about whether if this is anything anywhere from voter fraud to just incompetence. At what point does it become a legal issue?
When someone files a lawsuit. And I think it's, I know Helen Purcell and I know Karen Osborne. I've known them as a candidate outside of this office working in an election. I've interacted with them as a candidate and then also as the county attorney. And well, I don't want to presume anything. I think it's way too early to say that anybody's rights were necessarily violated. People certainly were inconvenienced. I think everybody could agree on that. But in terms of making a decision to limit the number of polling places, what if we had expanded the number of polling places and then people were upset that they were asked to come volunteer to serve as poll workers and nobody showed up? I mean, there's a large continuum there of trying to identify what's the right amount of resources to provide for a presidential preference election in order to meet historical demand, because there's also the possibility. I haven't seen the turnout numbers yet, so I'm admittedly speaking from a deficit of information on that, so I'm not going to draw any conclusions. But another possibility could be that we had such a tremendous amount of turnout that even working off of historical numbers, we might have still had a similar situation. What I don't think there's any evidence of is any calculated effort to prevent people from being able to vote.
Since you voted, who are you supporting?
I am going to rest on that time-honored principle that it's a secret ballot.
Maricopa County and the state expected really high voter turnout numbers. Why were there so few polling places, and why was the amount of polling places cut from previous years?
I think that's a better question to address to the recorder's office. I believe Helen Purcell has offered some answers to those questions, and I'll defer to her on that.
Bill, do you think there's a difference when we talk about that line between which we determine rights were violated or not? Do you think there's a different threshold when we look at this as a PPE as opposed to a general election?
As a voter myself, I really don't think so. I think there's a different universe of voter for a presidential preference election than there are for other elections where there are accommodations for independent voters. That's about the best distinction that I could offer. But in terms of the sanctity of somebody's ballot and the opportunity to